There's a movie script sitting in The Rock's home office that represents the biggest what if of his career. If he had said yes to this role, he would have made $15 million immediately, but he never would have become the highest paid actor in Hollywood. The script was so bad that when it was finally made with a different actor, it destroyed that person's career completely. But why were so many people trying to convince The Rock to take it anyway? It was February 14, 2005, and Dwayne Johnson was sitting in his manager's Beverly Hills office, staring at a script that made his stomach turn. The pages felt heavy in his hands not because of their weight, but because of what they represented, a potential career suicide disguised as the opportunity of a lifetime. The movie was called Hercules, Warrior of Light, and on paper, it seemed perfect for The Rock. An action-adventure epic with a massive budget, A-list producers, and a payday that would dwarf anything he'd earned in his young Hollywood career. But as Dwayne read through the script, he realized this wasn't an opportunity, it was a trap. The story was a disaster. Hercules was written as a bumbling, comedic figure who accidentally stumbled into heroic situations through sheer luck and stupidity. The dialogue was filled with wrestling puns and references that would have reduced The Rock's character to a cartoon version of his WWE persona. Worst of all, the script included multiple scenes where Hercules would be humiliated, defeated, or made to look foolish for cheap laughs. "This is garbage," Dwayne said, tossing the script onto his manager's desk. Marcus Goldstein, his manager at the time, leaned back in his leather chair and smiled the kind of smile that meant he was about to deliver news that would benefit him more than his client. "Garbage that pays $15 million, Marcus replied. "Dwayne, this is the biggest offer you've ever received. Hell, it's the biggest offer any wrestler-turned-actor has ever received." Dwayne had been in Hollywood long enough to recognize when something felt wrong, and everything about this offer felt wrong. "Who's producing this?" he asked. "Titan Entertainment Group," Marcus said, consulting his notes. "They've got a 3-picture deal with Universal, unlimited budget, and they specifically requested you for the lead role." Dwayne had never heard of Titan Entertainment Group, which was suspicious. In Hollywood, everyone knew who the major players were, and new production companies with unlimited budgets didn't just appear overnight with massive studio deals. "I want to meet with them," Dwayne said. "That's not necessary," Marcus replied quickly. "I can handle all the negotiations. They're in a hurry to close this deal and start production by summer." The urgency was another red flag. Legitimate movies took years to develop, not months. The pressure to make a quick decision without meeting the people behind the project felt like manipulation. "Marcus, I'm not signing anything until I understand who I'm working with and why they want me so badly." His manager's expression shifted slightly, a micro-expression that revealed his frustration with Dwayne's caution. "Fine," Marcus said. "I'll set up a meeting. But Dwayne, don't overthink this. $15 million is $15 million. The meeting was scheduled for the following week at an upscale restaurant in West Hollywood. Dwayne arrived early, partly out of professionalism and partly because he wanted to observe the Titan Entertainment representatives before they knew he was there. What he saw confirmed his suspicions. The 3 men sitting at the corner table looked like stereotypical Hollywood executives: expensive suits, ostentatious watches, and the kind of artificial confidence that came from having more money than talent. But their conversation, which Dwayne could overhear from the bar, revealed their true intentions. "The script is perfect," one of them was saying. "It'll make him look like exactly what people expect, a muscle-bound wrestler who can't actually act. And when it bombs," another added, "it'll prove that these WWE guys should stick to fake fighting and leave real entertainment to real actors." The third man, who appeared to be the leader, was more direct. "Hollywood has an image problem with these wrestler types. They're bringing down the prestige of our industry. One spectacular failure from their biggest star will send a message to studios that it's not worth the risk." Dwayne felt his anger rising, but he forced himself to stay calm and continue listening. "The beauty of it," the leader continued, "is that he'll be so eager for the money and the mainstream validation that he won't realize he's being set up until it's too late." Now Dwayne understood. This wasn't about making a movie, it was about making an example. Titan Entertainment Group wasn't a legitimate production company. They were a group of industry insiders who felt threatened by wrestlers successfully transitioning to Hollywood. They wanted to destroy The Rock's career to discourage other wrestlers from following his path. But there was still one question: how did his own manager fit into this scheme? Dwayne approached the table and the conversation immediately stopped. The 3 men stood up, putting on their best fake smiles and extending their hands for greetings. "Dwayne, so great to finally meet you," the leader said. I'm Richard Sterling, CEO of Titan Entertainment. We're huge fans of your work. Thank you, Dwayne replied, studying their faces. I have to ask, why me? There are a lot of action stars in Hollywood. What made you specifically want The Rock for this project? The men exchanged glances, and Dwayne could see them calculating their response. Your authenticity, Sterling said finally. You bring a realness to action roles that trained actors can't match. Plus, your fanbase from wrestling gives us a built-in audience. It was a reasonable answer, but Dwayne could hear the insincerity in Sterling's voice. These men didn't respect his authenticity, they wanted to exploit it. I'd like to discuss some changes to the script, Dwayne said, sitting down at the table. Changes? Sterling seemed surprised. What kind of changes? The character of Hercules is written as comic relief. I'd like to explore making him more heroic, more dignified. Less of a bumbling fool and more of a genuine warrior. The three men exchanged looks again, and their discomfort was obvious. Well, Sterling said carefully, the comedic elements are what make the script special. Audiences love to laugh, and your natural charisma would make those scenes really work. Comedic elements are fine, Dwayne replied, but not at the expense of the character's dignity. If I'm going to play Hercules, I want him to be someone audiences can respect and admire. That's not really the vision we have for this project, another executive interjected. We think the humor comes from subverting expectations of what a hero should be. Dwayne nodded politely, but internally he was confirming what he'd suspected. They didn't want him to succeed in this role, they wanted him to embarrass himself. The lunch continued for another hour, with Dwayne asking pointed questions about their production experience, their financing, and their long-term plans for the character. Their answers were vague, evasive, and occasionally contradictory. By the time he left the restaurant, Dwayne was certain that accepting this role would be career suicide. But there was still the matter of his manager's involvement. That evening, Dwayne called Marcus and requested a meeting the next morning. When he arrived at Marcus's office, he came prepared with questions that would reveal the truth. Marcus, Dwayne said, how long have you known the people at Titan Entertainment? I've been aware of them for a while, Marcus replied vaguely. They're new but well-funded. How well-funded? What do you mean? I mean, who's backing them? Where's their money coming from? Marcus shuffled papers on his desk, avoiding eye contact. Does it matter? They have the money to pay you $15 million. It matters to me, Dwayne said firmly. I want to know who I'm working with. The conversation continued for 20 minutes, with Marcus growing increasingly defensive and evasive. Finally, Dwayne asked the question that would reveal everything. Marcus, are you getting a fee from Titan Entertainment beyond your normal commission? The silence that followed answered the question. It's not what you think, Marcus said finally. They offered me a consulting fee to help package the deal, but that's normal in situations like this. How much? That's not relevant to. How much, Marcus? Another pause. $2 million. Dwayne felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. His own manager, the person who was supposed to protect his interests, had been paid $2 million to convince him to take a role that would destroy his career. You sold me out, Dwayne said quietly. I didn't sell you out, Marcus protested. I negotiated you the biggest payday of your career. How is that selling you out? Because you knew this was a setup. You knew they wanted to humiliate me, and you were willing to let it happen for $2 million. Marcus stood up from his desk, his facade of professionalism finally cracking. Dwayne, you're a wrestler who got lucky with a few movies. You're not Marlon Brando. You're not even Arnold Schwarzenegger. This industry has standards, and maybe it's time you learned where you really fit in the hierarchy. The words hung in the air like a slap. In that moment, Dwayne saw Marcus not as his representative, but as part of the system that wanted to keep wrestlers in their place. You're fired, Dwayne said simply. You can't fire me, Marcus replied. I have a contract. Watch me. Dwayne walked out of Marcus's office and never spoke to him again. But firing his manager didn't solve the immediate problem. Titan Entertainment was still pressuring him for an answer, and they'd increased their offer to $18 million when they learned he was having second thoughts. The decision that would define his career came during a conversation with someone who had no business giving him advice about Hollywood, his father, Rocky Johnson. Dwayne called his dad that evening, explaining the situation and asking for guidance. Son, Rocky said after hearing the whole story, let me ask you something. When you were wrestling, did you ever take a match that you knew would make you look bad just because the money was good? Never, Dwayne replied. Why not? Because once you lose your credibility with the audience, you can't get it back. If fans don't believe in you, nothing else matters. Hollywood audiences are just fans in movie theaters, Rocky said. Same principle applies. That simple conversation clarified everything for Dwayne. He was being offered $18 million to destroy his credibility with movie audiences. No amount of money was worth that risk. The next morning, Dwayne called Titan Entertainment and declined their offer. Richard Sterling was furious. "You're making the biggest mistake of your career," he told Dwayne over the phone. "You'll never get another offer like this." "Good," Dwayne replied. "I don't want another offer like this." Sterling's final words were telling. "You wrestlers are all the same. You think you belong in our industry, but you'll never be anything more than novelty acts." 6 months later, Dwayne learned what happened to Hercules, Warrior of Light. The role eventually went to a former bodybuilder turned actor who was desperate for a comeback. The movie was made with a significantly reduced budget, released direct-to-video, and became one of the most mocked films of the year. The actor's career never recovered. Meanwhile, Dwayne used the 6 months he would have spent making Hercules to develop relationships with legitimate filmmakers and producers who respected his talent and understood his potential. Those relationships led to The Game Plan in 2007, a family comedy that showcased Dwayne's natural charisma and acting ability. The movie was a commercial success and proved that The Rock could carry a film without relying on his wrestling persona or resorting to self-deprecating humor. More importantly, The Game Plan established Dwayne as a bankable movie star who could appeal to audiences beyond wrestling fans. It opened doors to bigger and better projects, eventually leading to franchises like Fast Furious and Jumanji that would make him the highest-paid actor in Hollywood. But the real victory wasn't financial, it was philosophical. By refusing to participate in his own humiliation, Dwayne had sent a message to Hollywood that wrestlers deserved the same respect as any other performers. His success paved the way for other wrestlers to transition to mainstream entertainment without being forced into stereotypical or demeaning roles. Today, when young wrestlers ask Dwayne for advice about Hollywood careers, he always tells them the same story about Hercules, Warrior of Light. "The biggest opportunities aren't always the best opportunities," he explains. "Sometimes the most important decision you can make is knowing what to say no to." The script for Hercules, Warrior of Light, still sits in Dwayne's home office, not as a reminder of what he almost did, but as a reminder of what he refused to do. It represents a moment when he chose long-term success over short-term money, when he chose dignity over dollars, and when he refused to let others define his worth. In an industry that often pressures performers to take whatever they can get, The Rock's decision to walk away from $18 million became legendary. It proved that sometimes the most powerful word in Hollywood isn't yes, it's no. The movie role that almost destroyed The Rock's career ended up defining it instead. Not because he took it, but because he had the wisdom and courage to walk away. Disclaimer: this story is created for entertainment purposes only and is not based on real events. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. The content is fictional and intended for humor and storytelling purposes.